Okay, anticipation is growing tonight as hundreds of sealed court documents linked to notorious sex offender Jeffrey Epstein are due to be made public. It could happen as early as tomorrow. And in those documents are the names of more than 150 men and women who the late pedophile was connected to in some way. We don't know the details yet. Among the names we already do know, former President Bill Clinton. Clinton, for his part, has denied any illicit connections with the known sex offender. NewsNation's Dre Clark joins us live. Dre, you have to imagine there are men out there worried right now with this list about to come out.
Good evening to you, Brian. I think you're exactly right. I think there are a lot of nervous people waiting to see if their name will actually make the list here. And in fact, we could see those names as early as tomorrow morning here. Judge Loretta Preska says that she saw no legal reason for keeping the name sealed, although she did allow those individuals who wish to keep their name confidential to file an appeal, although she made no promises that she would actually grant their wish. Now, we should also note that these individuals who are being named are not facing criminal charges or prosecution, but morally, their character could be called into question for their association with the man who was convicted of sex crimes against children. The list of John and Jane Does is long, men and women who up until now have had the protection of discretion through sealed court documents. But federal Judge Loretta Preska deciding it's time to remove the seal and name names. More than 150 people, including men, women, former Jeffrey Epstein associates, employees, and friends, could all be named, as well as some of Epstein's alleged sex trafficking victims.
A new year and a new chapter in the saga of Jeffrey Epstein.
The public disclosure could be very embarrassing for some, but the judge says many of the people listed are already known because they either gave interviews or had their names listed in other public court documents related to Epstein. One big name that is expected is former President Bill Clinton. Mr. Clinton has acknowledged he used Epstein's jet for trips overseas for his humanitarian efforts, but he denies he did anything wrong.
There's no reason to believe at the present time that those individuals their names that will be released tomorrow have anything to do with any criminal acts against the minors and victims that were at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and his associates.
The names of those Epstein associates, some of them known and notable, were part of a now settled 2015 civil lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, brought by Virginia Giuffre. Giuffre accused Maxwell of helping Epstein sexually traffic and abuse her as a teenager. Giuffre is now 40 years old. Giuffre claims she met Mr. Clinton on Epstein's private Caribbean island through his representatives. The former president says he's never been to the island before. She also says one of the people who sexually assaulted her as a teen was Epstein's close friend, Prince Andrew. The prince denies the accusations but did pay Giuffre a multi-million-dollar settlement after she came forward with her allegations.
It would be wonderful to see the victims of Jeffrey Epstein get justice after all.
Now, Jeffrey Epstein did plead guilty and was convicted in 2008 of engaging in child prostitution. Many people say he received a sweetheart deal, which was 13 months in custody, when many people say he should have spent years behind bars. Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide in 2019. Meanwhile, many people say that all of those individuals who were associated with Jeffrey Epstein after 2008, 2009 deserved to be outed because everyone knew that he was a convicted felon for engaging in sex crimes against children. Brian?
Dre, do we know if any of the names will not be released? I know there's been a lot of anticipation, but is it possible there's been deals with the judge behind the scenes and this could just be a big nothing burger, like the document could just be totally redacted?
There's no chance of that happening. There will definitely be some names that will be released. But again, you had some individuals who filed an appeal asking their names be kept confidential. We're not exactly sure how many of those names the judge will actually go ahead and grant them that appeal. But then we know of at least 11 individuals whose names will remain sealed because they were minor victims of sex crimes against Jeffrey Epstein here. So again, there is no chance that all of those names will be redacted. Certainly there's going to be a lot of names revealed at some point in time. And again, a lot of people are nervous about that. But the judge did provide and grant some exceptions, mainly those individuals that she said were minor victims of child sex abuse.
Yeah, that seems to make sense. But for everybody else, tomorrow's going to be interesting. You mentioned it. A lot of people nervous, and just another chapter in this Epstein saga that seems to be never ending. We'll be paying attention tomorrow, Dre. Thank you very much for the report.
You got it.
Okay. Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.